Welcome back to another video. Today's topic comes from a website. This website is now called TrueGirl or mytruegirl.com. The key thing to note for this website is I referenced this in an earlier video, several earlier videos. This used to be the My Secret Keeper Girl website for Dannah Gresh's My Secret Keeper Girl series, now rebranded to TrueGirl. I said before that I wasn't able to find a public rebranding statement, and I've recently found that I was somewhat wrong. There's this blog on the TrueGirl website, formerly the Secret Keeper Girl website, announcing that they're changing their name, titled, "We're Changing Our Name, Introducing TrueGirl." I couldn't find a date for this post, but at the bottom of the video is linked to a Facebook Live done by Dannah Gresh, done on January 31st, 2019. It's public, but if you were to stumble onto it after years of, I'm going to say, not being around it or not being fully in Christian fundamentalist circles, you'd be forgiven for not understanding that this name change happened. If it wasn't for the digging that I did, I wouldn't have known that it happened. So, I'm going to read this and then offer up a couple comments after I read this. Quote, "I just don't feel like my story could be useful on this stage," end quote. The words my and this are italicized. Those were the words of a Secret Keeper Girl intern who was just about to lead worship at one of our events. The enemy of her soul was lying to her and telling her that her story disqualified her from being used. But Casey's story did not disqualify her, and I knew that. Casey, you see, was sexually abused as a child and was still fighting the battle to believe it was not her fault. I was fighting it with her, but she needed to hear from God. Quote, "Let's pray and ask God to show you that your story is useful," end quote, I suggested as we readied ourselves for the event backstage. Quote, "What would that even look like?" end quote, Casey asked. Quote, "I'm not even speaking tonight. I'm just singing," end quote. Quote, "I don't know, and it's a tall order," end quote, I answered honestly. Quote, "But God can do anything," end quote. We paused and I laid hands on Casey and asked God specifically to use her story somehow, even though she would not get to tell it. 1 hour later, I was walking through the nearly empty lobby during the event. The worship team, including Casey, was just finishing another song when I noticed a mom and daughter kneeling in the corner. They were both quietly crying, so I approached them to see if I could help. Quote, "My daughter just this minute told me that she's been abused," end quote, said the mom through thick tears as she hugged her girl. Quote, "I'm so proud of her," end quote. Quote, "I am too," end quote, I said, looking her in the eyes. Quote, "What made you tell your mom today?" End quote. Quote, "I didn't know," end quote, she answered awkwardly. Quote, "Just every time we sang a song tonight, I felt like something was telling me to tell my mom what happened," end quote. Yes, God did that. That is italicized. Parentheses, I still get chills when I tell the story, end parentheses. Working with victims of abuse and healing sexual brokenness has always been a fundamental part of our ministry. This is just the beginning of one story of restoration, but we've since heard hundreds of powerful stories about how God has worked through our ministry and they tend to have a common thread. They don't happen through secrets. Girls have revealed secret wounds to their mothers from the audience of our event. Moms have found healing from past traumas they locked away in their hearts years ago. Our ministry has heard story after story of girls and moms who have been freed from harmful secrets through our ministry. And we believe it's time we acknowledge the disconnect between our brand name and our ministry. At its conception, Secret Keeper Girl was an offshoot of another project, meant to be a junior ministry based off my book, quote, Secret Keeper, end quote, for teenagers. We never expected it to grow into its own thriving brand, be used to bring over 10,000 girls to Christ, and to disciple hundreds of thousands. We've seen powerful works of freedom and healing happen in lives through this ministry. With the growth of the ministry, we've come to realize our, quote, junior, end quote, name may not be the right fit, especially since the name, quote, Secret Keeper Girl, end quote, is not at all indicative of the work that we do. So, with great excitement and anticipation of even greater ministry, we've decided to rebrand to the name True Girl in May of 2019. Note that last half of the sentence from the word we've to the word 2019 is in bold. I continue reading. Our ministry in the Dominican Republic will also rebrand to Chica Verdadera. We will still offer all of the same great resources, tools, and tour that you know and love, but just with a brand new shiny name that we think better encapsulates our ministry's heart. This next part is highlighted in yellow. We believe that the name True Girl is a more positive, empowering tone, and believe that adopting a more accurate name will increase our opportunity to reach girls who otherwise might say, quote, Secret Keeper what? End quote. There ends the yellow highlight. We feel that the title True Girl is a better representation of our mission. In a culture that lies to girls by telling them they have to grow up too fast or be someone they are not, our goal is to equip moms to protect their daughters and raise a generation of girls who are grounded in truth. Note, truth is with a capital T. So they will be confident in their faith and in themselves, becoming all that God meant for them to be, a true girl after God. We want to be a ministry that takes action to protect victims and goes out of our way to make their healing a priority. And that starts with removing a label that could be misconstrued as harmful. Moving forward, there's a lot of work to be done. Changing names requires a time-consuming and costly overhaul of all our current assets, but we believe it is a necessary change. But we can't afford to make this change on our own. If you see this need and want to support us in rebranding our ministry, we need your help now more than ever. First bullet point, in bold, please pray, end bold. Our team needs wisdom and prayers for energy as we navigate the extra responsibility and projects associated with this rebrand and make big decisions that will affect the future of True Girl. Second bullet point, in bold, please consider making a significant one-time donation, end bold. New logos, signage, letterhead, team gear, design, and so much more will cost about $130,000 above and beyond our regular annual budget. We also need to pay for the production of the first True Girl tour, which will cost about $70,000. So we need an additional $200,000 of income before August, when the brand change will be complete and we will debut the True Girl Pajama Party Tour. This seems almost inconceivable to us, but we know that if we step out in faith, God will see us through. We recently launched a Kickstarter to get the initial push we need to raise these funds, and you can find out how to be involved here. Linked there below. P.S. You can hear more from Dannah about this announcement on her live video here. Now, that is the Facebook live video tagged there. When you click on that, that will open up Facebook and open up the Facebook video. If you want to watch it, I would recommend starting at minute 6:30 seconds, because that is when she goes into the actual meat of talking about the brand change. Up until that point, it's her promoting her books, including, at that time, her new book, Lies Girls Believe. But fast forward to 6:30, and you can see the reveal of True Girl. The tags for this post are uncategorized and values, which is probably why I didn't see this in the first place, because it doesn't have a category for rebranding or even name change. The first thing that stood out to me is the emotional manipulation at the start of the story, talking about an intern who works for her who came forward to Dannah with her story of abuse. That was brave of her, and I feel for the intern, and I really hope she's doing better in her healing journey now. What annoys me is how Dannah uses that to connect to an event where a daughter is confessing that she suffered abuse to her mother. Same event, just shortly later in the event. If you watch the Facebook Live, she specifically mentions it happened during intermission, during that tour, same day of that tour. The next thing that bothers me is she's talking about working with victims of abuse and healing sexual brokenness has always been a fundamental part of our ministry. Since when? You were a part of purity culture. You were all about the culture of shaming young girls and women for having bodies that happen to attract the male gaze, and talking about how it's all our job to not allow our brothers to fall into sin. Since when has that included working with victims of abuse and healing sexual brokenness? Unless you want to talk about sexual brokenness as just having sex outside of marriage, that doesn't jive with the story that you conveniently used earlier. There's physical abuse, there's sexual abuse, there's emotional abuse. Which abuses have you focused on, Dannah? I remember cracking open your books and seeing all of the emphasis being placed on purity and making sure your clothes weren't too tight, weren't too loose, that they had enough inches to cover your waist, that you layered enough so that you wouldn't happen to attract a man's gaze. And if he was attracted to you, you must be doing something wrong. Not once have I heard you publicly talk about abuse or sexual abuse or how you want to help those victims. That's not even part of your origin story, which deals around your regret from having sex outside of marriage. She talks about that they have to acknowledge the disconnect between their brand name and their ministry. We believe it's time, she says. How about it's time to acknowledge your harmful role in purity culture, like Josh Harris did? For God's sakes, you even were featured in the documentary I Survived, I Kissed Dating Goodbye. And you still don't consider it important that you take ownership of that. And that's why your Secret Keeper series, now rebranded as the True Girl series, became massively popular. next thing that irritates me. Her statement saying we never expected it to grow into its own thriving brand. I'm pretty sure you did, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't surprising. Especially considering the purity culture mindset of the evangelical church. Yeah, it's still around today, but there was a heyday back in the, early 90s, mid 90s to the, I would say probably to the mid 2010s, just going off the top of my head. The documentary I Survived, I Kissed Dating Goodbye does a decent job, I would say, of creating a timeline of that. But I bring it up because Christian evangelicals and Christian fundamentalists like Dannah will just conveniently ignore it and conveniently not address it. Oh, you mean I wrote a book for teenagers called Secret Keeper that essentially slut-shamed Britney Spears for dressing the way she did in the intro of that book, and then talked about how I as Dannah Gresh had to watch how I dressed because I accidentally wore a too short t-shirt and I caught some guy staring at my midriff. So therefore, you should be ashamed of your body as well, and this is how you can keep your body under wraps. Nope, never to be mentioned again. Again, probably why this article on rebranding was very well hidden. I will never stop mentioning any of this because until people take ownership of how damaging their materials have been to a great many people, and they take ownership and they do the apology, there needs to be a constant reminder. Please don't let people forget that Christian evangelical and Christian fundamentalist purity culture bullshit, that stuff like this was, and I'm pretty sure still is involved in, was and played, and in some parts continues to play a huge role in enforcing purity culture on girls. Never forget, and let's keep it out there. At least Josh Harris publicly retracted his book, Dannah. What have you done besides rebrand your ministry? Next thing that bothers me is she says, we believe that the name True Girl is a more positive, empowering tone and believe that adopting a more accurate name will increase our opportunity to reach girls. Well, when your rebrand is hidden like this, yes, it is. And that is a tragedy because it's not empowering to tell a woman that she needs to cover up lest other guys lust after her, or lest other guys want to give in to their sexual urges and sexually assault her, or, YouTube version great. That is not empowering, and that is not positive. Now, in all fairness, I need to dig out my old book, and then, as much as I don't want to give Dannah money, I should get a copy of her current True Girl book and see what changes have been made. Maybe there have been decent changes. Maybe there have not, considering that she has conveniently hidden things like this rebranding from immediate public view. I had to type in the Google search Secret Keeper Girl rebrand and True Girl rebrand for it to actually pop up on the first page of the Google results. Otherwise, it doesn't pop up on the first page, and if I remember correctly, it doesn't pop up on the second page. I know the search results revolve on an algorithm. I was using a private web browser for the last one, just to be on the safe side. So, completely possible that I missed it, but again, it's not even mentioned on the main True Girl website. It's not mentioned as a feature, it's not mentioned as a header, it's not mentioned at the bottom of the page. You have to go out of your way to find this in order to figure out what she did, and then have to sit through a emotionally charged post that ends with a bunch of money begging. Don't you have enough money, Dannah, from your books to support this rebranding? Curious to see how many people went and donated to your Kickstarter. But I'll let my lack of faith in humanity get further lowered another day. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Below this blog shows a bunch of other blogs, including a place where it says new blogs posted regularly. Sign up to be notified when new blogs are available. You can enter in your email to get notified of blog posts from her. And then there's a couple other blog posts, because apparently Dannah Gresh has also decided to evolve her ministry to include mom guilt. Great. Purity culture and mom guilt. What else do you have your fingers in, Dannah? That concludes today's video. Please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, leaving a comment down below, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.